Okay. Uh, Good evening, faculty and students. Uh, I'm happy today that we have uh, Bhasti Bharat Shanai. So we are having a webinar on data sheet designer's friend, and I welcome all of you to this webinar. So before I give it to Bharat, I'll just briefly introduce Bharat. Uh, Bharat Shanai is currently a PhD student at Electrical and Computer Engineering Department, Michigan State University, United States of America. And he works in the lab Non-Destructive Evaluation, NDEL. Before that, Basti was a MTech research student at ECNITK, and he did his research in the area of renewable energy and VLSI related domain. And Basti holds his BTech from NMA MIT NITTE, and he was assistant lecturer here in EC department for some time, student for some time. After that, he joined Michigan State University. Uh, After looking his biography, I think he's doing research in electromagnetics and biology, probably the combination, probably wireless control of cellular functions. And he has various publications to his credit. So I welcome Basti for this, Basti Bharat Shanai for this webinar. And I also welcome all the students, faculty, research students, MTech students, all of you to this webinar. Over to Basti.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Raghavendra sir, for the kind introduction. So let me actually get started. Yeah. So this is the outline of my story today. So I hope I'm clear. I hope I'm audible just before the start.
Yes, you are audible and clear.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So this is the outline of my story. So I'm going to talk about various things about circuit design. Initially, I'll start with the objective, why this particular talk, and then go to the basic component specifications. And then I'll take a sample example, okay, a problem, and then try to see how we can go about solving the problem. Okay, first from a layman's perspective, and then from a circuit designer's perspective, and then also look at circuit debugging. How do you go about looking into the problems? Okay, how do you solve the problems? How do you identify the problems? So some things regarding that, and then of course the data sheet. Okay, all through the story we are going to look at some specifications here and there to understand what exactly is happening, and we would like to have like a proper justification as to why we have chosen a particular component or something in those lines. Okay, and then we'll have the final concluding remarks. And one thing that I would like to say is I want to keep this talk very interactive. So I'll be happy if you can talk to me. Let's share ideas and let's learn together. So that's the ultimate intention of the talk, and not just me to keep on talking. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead. So this is the main objective which I thought about. So one is to motivate you towards learning some things about the electronic component, some kind of specifications, what you need to know, okay, when you design a circuit. Okay, so this is going to motivate you in that direction, and then also to enjoy the learning experience, enjoy circuit design as a whole. Okay, so this is the main objective. Okay. Yeah, so now starts. So the basic component specifications. So all of you have either studied about a resistor, used a resistor in a circuit, or like whatever it is. So let us look at what you know about the resistor. What are the specifications you can think about? So feel free to give me your answers. As I told, I want it to be interactive. Only then it will be good. Otherwise, it's going to be a very passive thing. So let's learn together. Come on, guys.
Resistor is a passive elements and
Mhm.
which is linearity property should be satisfying.
Okay. 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 So let me ask you a little more specific question. Okay, so let's say that you're going to buy a resistor from any particular shop, maybe a Manohar Radio near your place in an ITK. Okay, so what are you going to ask them? How are you going to approach it? Let's say that you have designed the resistor, you have a design and you want, let's say, a 10 ohm resistor. Okay, so what are you going to go and tell them?
That we wanted a resistor.
Yeah, you need a 10 ohm resistor. So if he asks you another question, let's say he asks you, what is the wattage of that resistor? Okay, you should be in a position to answer. Okay, maybe you need, okay, this specific resistor, maybe you need a quarter watt resistor, or you need a half watt resistor, or a 1 watt resistor. Okay, something in those lines. And there are several specifications to the resistor. You can have like the types. Okay, you can have a carbon film resistor, or you can have like, say, surface mount components, or you can have like the through hole components. Okay, and then you will also have the wattage rating for the resistor. Okay, so let's look a little deeper into this with some small examples. Okay, so this talk is not going to be like really heavy, so it's going to just expose you to some of the things, and then you can carry on with that. Okay, so let's look at a simple circuit. So you have a LED here and a resistor in series. Okay, so I would like to know how to calculate the value of this resistance, okay, or this resistor, and also know what is its wattage rating. Okay, so to do that, what are the things that I need to know? What can you think of? If I need to know the value of the resistor, or if I need to calculate the value of R, what is it that I need to know? Okay, so if I get silence, then I think I need to answer myself. Okay.
You can
Probably Bharat.
Yeah.
So if I look at the first year ECE students, maybe they don't have much background on some of these stuffs. I mean, registers and other things they are aware of. So they are from the circuits and systems. They had the course in the first semester.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, they might have studied this in their physics somewhere, I believe. So they at least they know the color coding of resistors, that band structure, whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, that's a good input. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. So nobody is going to judge you. You can say anything over here. Okay. It's just for the learning. Okay. So let me get you started somewhere. Okay. So if I need to know how to calculate R, we all know Ohm's law, right? So it's finally going to boil down to V is equal to IR. Okay. So you need to know what is the voltage that comes across the resistor and what's the current that flows through the resistor. Okay. So then you'll know the resistance value. Okay. To know that, you need to know the specifications of this device. Okay. You need to know the voltage that comes across the LED and the current that flows through the LED. Okay. So let us say that you have a voltage across the LED as 2 volts. Okay. Voltage is 2 volts across the LED, and the current that flows through the LED, let me take it as a 10 milliampere. Okay. So you know the specification, right? It's 2 volts across the LED and 10 milliamperes flowing through the LED. Okay. So what is going to happen now? How do I calculate the value of R? R is nothing but V by I, right? V is IR. So R is equal to V by I. So I need to know what is the voltage that comes across the resistor. Okay. So out of the 5 volts, if 2 volts goes here, then the rest of it should go here, right? So you will have 3 volts coming in here. Okay. And you know what is the current that flows through the resistor. Okay. So it's going to be 3 volts across the resistor divided by 10 milliampere, which was the current flowing. So how much will that be?
3 by 10 milliamperes across the resistor.
Yeah, 10 milliamperes through the resistor. So whenever you talk about the current, you say it's a through component, right? So current flows through the resistor and the voltage drops across the resistor. Okay, that's how we're going to put it. So what is the value of the resistance then? R is 3 divided by 10 milliampere, right? So it's going to be the order of 300 ohms. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So now you have a value of 300 ohms for the resistor. Okay, you need to know the specifications. You need to know what is the wattage rating of that resistor. So how do you calculate the wattage? So it's the power dissipation that we are looking at. Okay, resistance is a resistor is a power dissipative component. Okay, so the power across the resistor, if you want to calculate, you just have to apply V into I or I square R. Okay, so that will give you the wattage specification. So how much do you get it as? Can you calculate that? I'd like it to be interactive, and let's do some work together. So spend some time calculating too. So how much do you get that as? You know the current, you know the voltage.
0.3.
Is it 0.3 watts? What is it?
Yeah, 0.3 watts.
It's 0.3 watts.
0.03 watts.
You're sure? So what is it going to be? Just think about it. So you're going to have a voltage 3 that drops across it, and the current is 10 milliampere, right?
Yeah,
0.03 watts.
0.03 watts.
Okay, 0.03 watts. Okay, you can also put a I square R, whatever you like it. Okay, now if you get 0.03 watts, so what you should do, you should choose a resistance or a resistor which has a wattage rating that is higher than that. Okay, basically you need to give some kind of a margin in this circuit. So if you want to keep the circuit safe or the resistor safe, you need to make sure that you have a resistor that is selected which has a wattage rating much higher than 30 milliwatts or 0.03 watts, which you said. Okay, so that's how you go about it. So if you get, let's say, the value in your calculation as say 1 watt, then I'm going to have a resistor which has a rating at least 1.5 watts or something like that. Okay, give some kind of a margin so that maybe because of some reason, maybe the power supply, the voltage increases. Maybe instead of 5, it becomes 5.1 or 5.2. Okay, maybe the current increases slightly through the resistor. Okay, because of the increase in the current, the power dissipation will also increase. Okay, so in this case, you should not have like a very critical thing that you design. Okay, I design exactly VI and I choose that resistor. Okay, so it should not be that way. You should give a margin there so that the resistor operates safely, and this builds in reliability into your system. I hope you get what I'm trying to say. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay. So let's look at one more example. Okay. So this is a practical example now. So you have a IC. Okay. So basically this will be like, let's say, a power supply. Okay. It's going to generate you a constant voltage, a voltage regulator kind of an IC. Okay. An integrated circuit. So let's say that this is the connection. So let's not look into very deep stuff. Okay. I'm just looking at the resistor and its specification. Okay. Just as an application, I've given you this. Okay. So I'm looking at this resistor R. Okay. And this is my load resistor. Okay. Now what happens usually is whenever you want to limit the current, you're going to apply that value of the resistor, which gives you a limiting current of something. For example, let's say that I want a limiting current to be like, say, 10 ampere. Okay, I do not want the IC to give anything more than 10 ampere. What am I going to do? I'm going to set my value of R in such a way that it is VBE divided by 10, and VBE will be specified in the data sheet of the IC. Okay, so let's say that the VBE is like 0.7. Okay, maybe a transistor and the base to emitter voltage of the transistor. So it's going to be like 0.7 divided by 10, right? So it's going to be like 0.07 ohm. So that's what is going to be a resistor. Okay. Now, can you calculate the wattage rating? We know how to do that now, right? We know the voltage, we know the current, we can calculate the wattage. Even here, I know that 10 amperes is going to flow through the resistor and 0.7 volts is going to appear across the resistor. So what will be the wattage rating?
7 watts.
Yeah, it's going to be 7 watts, right? 10 into 0.7, so 7 watts. So what is the value that you're going to choose? What is the power dissipation that you are going to choose? What do you think?
Greater than 7.
Yeah, greater than 7. Okay, so let's say that you have an option of like say 10 watts, 20 watts, 30 watts. So which is the one that you're going to choose? 10, 20 or 30? And why?
30 would be the safest.
30.
Yeah, 30 would be the safest. Okay, but now whenever you are trying to build in more reliability into the system, more safety, So you're going to spend somewhere, right? Nothing is going to come for free. Okay. So 30-watt resistor is definitely going to be much costlier than a 10-watt resistor. So you are kind of over designing your system, right? So you're going to use a 30-watt, which let's say cost, just as an example, let's say cost like 10 bucks. Okay. And maybe a 10-watt resistor cost you like say $2. Okay. So you're unnecessarily wasting the extra $8 to just bring in reliability, which you know for sure that's not going to happen in your circuit. Maybe instead of 7-watt, there'll be an 8-watt or a 9-watt dissipation, but you're never going to cross like 10-watt unless the system goes really, really bad and then everything like just burns out or something. Okay. So just think about these things as well. So whenever you're going to design, you need to think about different aspects. One is you're going to build in reliability into your system, and the other thing is also about the cost. Okay. So there seems to be some kind of a trade-off that you need to do. Okay. I hope you appreciate these things, and let's move on with this. Okay. So now let's look at one more device that you're going to use maybe in your labs or like any kind of experiments or projects that you do. Okay. So capacitor. So let's not go deep into how it works. Like you have like the plates and then the value of the capacitance depends on the distance and all that. No, we are not going to look at that. We are going to look at it from the specification perspective. Okay. So what are the things that you need to know? Okay. So like I told you, whenever you go to buy a resistor, you need to at least know what is its wattage rating. Okay. So there are several other types that you will come across when you actually go on designing. For example, I mentioned about the through hole component and the surface mount. The surface mounts are going to be very small components. So the ones that you see in your motherboard, right? The small resistors, those are the surface mount components. Okay. And the through hole ones are the ones that we see in the breadboard or the proto board. So you're going to do these experiments once you come into your third or the fourth semester. So you will see all that then. Okay. So let us look at what we need to know when it comes to a capacitor. Okay. The basic things that you need to know is one, whether it is an electrolytic capacitor or it is a non-electrolytic, maybe a polyester capacitor. Okay. Maybe a film capacitor, something like that. Okay. So let's look at an example here. So just to give you a feel for what I'm talking about. So let's look at this circuit now, a simple RC circuit. There's nothing much here. Okay. Just a R and a C. So if I look at the voltage across the capacitor, so what do you think could be the maximum voltage that will come across the capacitor? Let's not look into equations. Let's not go into any details, but I know that I'm going to give a 12 volt here. So what is the maximum that you think is going to come across this? It's fine if you give wrong answers. I have no problem. I'll be happy that you're answering something at least.
12 volt.
Yeah, 12. So you know that you cannot get anything more than 12 volts here, right? Okay. So that gives us a direction for choosing this capacitor. Okay. So maybe through the circuits, you know what is the value of the capacitor. We are not going to calculate it here. Although it's very simple to calculate, it's not a big deal. Okay. So, but we are going to look at the specification here. So you know that whatever you do, you're not going to get more than 12 volts here, right? Until you increase this voltage. Okay. So you choose a capacitor which can handle something more than that. Okay. So you look at a 25 volt capacitor or something like 15 volt, 20 volt, 30 volt, whatever is available. Okay. So maybe the nearest one available is 25 volt. Then you will have to go for that. Maybe the nearest one available is like 50 volts. Then you'll have to go for that. Okay. And one more thing, I was talking about the electrolytic capacitor, right? So in an electrolytic capacitor, what happens is you are going to have a polarity. So always you need to connect it in a certain manner. For example, you have a plus terminal connected here and a minus terminal connected here. So at any point, you're going to make sure that there is a positive voltage that comes across, or the current is going to flow into the capacitor. Okay, let's not go into much detail, but just realize that whenever you know that the voltage across this is going to remain above zero, then you're going to use a electrolytic capacitor. I'll give you an example. So let's look at a rectifier circuit. So all of you know what is a rectifier, right? Or at least you might have heard of that. So it converts AC into DC.
DC.
Okay? Yeah, that's right. So you have an AC signal, you need to convert it into DC. Maybe like to charge your mobile phone, you need to charge it from your AC mains, right? You need some kind of a rectification. Okay. So now you rectify and get it into DC. Now, will I use an electrolytic capacitor here, or will I go for a non-electrolytic capacitor? What do you think about it? So what did I tell you? If you are going to use an electrolytic capacitor, you should make sure that the voltage here is always going to be above zero. Okay. So if I'm going to convert an AC into a DC, do you think that the voltage here is always going to be above zero?
Bharat? Bharat, are you there? Can you hear us? Maybe some connection problem is there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. He has joined again. Bharat,
Yeah,
did you join
yeah.
again? Yes.
Yeah, I joined again. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we were at this. So we are going to convert the AC into DC. So whatever it is, you're going to get a voltage here which is positive. Okay. So you can use an electrolytic capacitor. But let us say that you're going to have a circuit like this where I'll give a AC input. Okay. So if I give an AC input here, then the voltage that comes across a capacitor in the positive half it's going to be above zero, and in the negative half it is going to be below zero, right? So in that case, I cannot use an electrolytic capacitor. I cannot use something which has polarity. Okay, I should use a non-polarized kind of a capacitor, maybe a ceramic capacitor. Okay, so these are basically the filter circuits. Okay, so this gives you just a feel of what kind of capacitors that you need to use and the specification. The main specification is, one, you need to know the value of the capacitor which you get from the circuit design. Okay, and the other thing you get from what is the maximum voltage that comes across the capacitor. Okay, is that clear? Do you get some ideas from here?
So your
PPT is
screen is not sharing.
screen is not visible, sir.
Share the screen.
It's not visible.
Share the screen
No, sir.
again.
Oh, I have not shared the screen. Once again, I think.
You shared it once the connection
Okay.
got lost now. So,
Oh, right, yeah.
okay.
Okay, is it visible now?
No,
Yes.
okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So does this give you an idea about the specification of the capacitor? What is the voltage rating that you need to choose?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, great. Okay. So we looked at these three circuits. So you know that, okay, you don't get anything more than 12 volts here. So I'm going to choose a capacitor which can handle something more than 12. Okay. And in this case, what did I say? I said, okay, always you're going to convert an AC into DC. You're going to have a positive voltage here. So you can use a capacitor which has polarity. So you can use an electrolytic capacitor. Okay. And in this particular case, you're going to give an AC input. Okay. So you're going to have a one cycle where the capacitor gets charged, another cycle where it gets discharged. So you're going to have a plus and a minus coming in. So you cannot use a capacitor which has a polarity, because if it has a polarity of a plus and a minus, then you'll have to make sure that you have a positive voltage that comes across it. Okay, I hope I'm clear about that. Yeah. So let us look at a small problem. Let's not go very deep into it because I know that you have not had a lot of basics about it, but let me give you some ideas. Okay. So look at this problem. Let's take like 30 seconds to see what it is. You can read it now. Are you done? Are you guys done reading it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So let me give you a idea of what this is. Okay, we are not going to go very deep into it, but just from a surface level of what exactly we are going to do. Okay, so you understand the problem, right? So you have a system, okay, like a computer where whenever you press a button, okay, so the LED screen is going to be on for a certain amount of time. And whenever you leave it in the idle state, you want it to be off after a particular time. Okay, so this is the 5 seconds. This is for the implementation. No need to wait for like 60 seconds. So I just said, okay, let's keep it like 5 seconds. And you are not supposed to use a battery for implementation. I hope the problem is clear. Is it clear? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So let's look at how we can solve this problem. Okay, so basically how I would go about it is you understand the problem first, which I've already done. Okay, and after that you are going to make a general system level block diagram. Okay, so you don't need to be an electronics engineer for that. You just make a layman kind of a diagram. Okay, so just to know what it is, and then you divide it into smaller parts and then start building each particular block into a realizable circuit. Okay, and once you're done with that, you're going to build it on a breadboard, okay, on a proto board or a breadboard we call it, and then you're going to finally get the design onto a PCB. Okay, so these are the steps that we are going to follow. Okay, so what I mean by the first step, so you understand the practical problem and prepare a general system level block diagram. Okay, so nothing. Okay, just you have a system. Okay, you know what are your inputs and you know what are your outputs. Okay, so what was the input here? So if you saw the problem, so you're going to give an input from the keyboard. Okay, that's like a switch. So you're going to give an input from there, and the indication was through an LED because we are going to make it realizable, right? So we're going to build a circuit. So indication was on an LED. So you have an input and you have an output. You don't know what the system is at all. Okay, so anybody can build this, right? There's nothing in that. Okay, anybody can make this block diagram. Okay, now what are the next things that I need to look at? What can you think about? Like, you don't have to go deep into electronics. What is it that you need? You will need a power supply, right? To make any of the circuits work, you need a power supply. Okay, that's one requirement. And when you have connected a switch here, okay, you need some kind of an interface, right? The switch has to be connected to your system, so there should be some kind of an interface. Okay, and then even for the LED, there should be some kind of an interface here. Okay, so you know this. So you know you have a switch interface, you have an LED interface, and then you have a power supply. Okay, and after that you need a circuit element or a circuit which can actually do your job. What is your job? Whenever you press the switch, the LED has to be on. So it has to give some kind of a signal to your LED circuit saying that, okay, turn on for this much amount of time. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, so let me make it simple. So this is how it might look like. Okay, so you have the AC mains. Okay, that's going to give input to your power supply. Okay, and the power supply is going to provide power or the voltage to your individual circuits. Okay, so we had the system here. That system is now replaced by simple blocks. Again, we are not talking about what circuits they are. Okay, we are just putting them in terms of blocks. Okay, so you have a switch and then you have a switch interface. Okay, and then for an LED, we'll call it as an LED interface. The interface might be as simple as just a resistor, okay, or it might be as complicated as putting like so many ICs. Okay, it could be anything. Okay, but we are going to say, okay, it's a interface circuit. Okay, and in between I need something that can actually do my job. Okay, as I told you, once you press the switch, the LED has to be on for a certain amount of time. So think about it in a very straightforward way. Okay, you can think like, okay, you need some kind of a delay, right? Okay, for a delay, I'll call it as a delay circuit. Okay, so all these are just not very specific things to circuit design. So we are just going from the top level now one step deeper. Okay, so you don't need to know much about the circuits, right? I hope you get a feel for what I'm talking about. Are you all with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good. Great. Yeah. So this is what you can do. And after this, you're going to design individual circuits. Okay. For example, whenever you go for a power supply, what kind of a power supply that you're going to design? Okay. You might have heard of switch mode power supply. There is another class which is known as the linear regulators. Okay. Linear power supplies. Okay. So those are like going a little bit detailed into that. We are not going to do that. Okay. As you don't have much background about it. But when you're going to come into your second or third year, you're going to definitely do a lot of this stuff. Okay. And for the switch interface, we are going to have a very simple circuit, which we'll be seeing very soon. And for a delay circuit, we'll be using a small IC, okay, a 555 based timer circuit. Okay, basically you need some kind of a delay. And for a LED interface circuit, we are just going to have a resistor and an LED. We are not going to make it very simple. Okay. So this is how the circuit looks like. Okay. So as I mentioned, so you're going to have the AC mains, which is going to be given to the power supply. Okay. So you have the AC mains coming into the transformer. Okay. Look at it like blocks itself. You don't need to go deep into this circuit. I'll just show you that in terms of blocks. So you're going to have the AC mains coming into your transformer, which is going to step down the voltage. And then you're going to have a rectifier in between. Okay. This is a full wave rectifier. So you're going to have AC to DC conversion. Okay. You have this capacitor. Okay. And then once you have the rectifier here, you need some kind of a regulator. You need to get a particular voltage. Maybe you need a 5 volt, maybe you need a 12 volt. Okay. So you're going to use a circuit or an IC which can regulate. Okay. So this is that part. And then you have the delay circuit, which I talked about. Okay. This delay circuit, which is exactly this one, which is the 555 timer circuit. We're not going to go into the details of that. And then this is the LED interface circuit. So you're just having a resistor and a LED. Okay, so you have a voltage coming in here, and then the LED is going to turn on for a certain amount of time. So you know what it is, right? So we press the switch and the LED is going to be on for a certain amount of time. Okay, so that's what it is. So this is the block diagram, okay, which has been converted into a schematic of the circuits. Okay, so if somebody has any questions about this, you can always ask me, maybe now or maybe later too. You can email and ask about that. Okay, so one thing that I would like you to do is this. So once this talk is done, okay, I would like you to go through this schematic. Okay, I'll also give you the design for that. Okay, I'll give you a PDF. I'll send it through your professor. Okay, so you look at that PDF, look at how to design. Okay, go and look at some specifications like I told you here. If it is a capacitor, then you need to know what is the maximum voltage that comes here. Okay, and all those things will be there in that PDF, and like you can go online, take your time. Okay, and understand why you have chosen each of these components, like why I need a regulator here. Okay, why I need a rectifier here. Okay, why I need a transformer here. Okay, so specification. So first of all, make a list of the components and then the specifications of the component. For example, if you say I'm going to use, let's say, a 300 ohm resistor like we calculated earlier. Okay, so if I use a 300 ohm resistor, the standard value may be 330 or like 220 or whatever it is. Okay, so then write that component name and then the specification of the component. Okay, maybe the value of the component and then the wattage rating of that component. If it is a capacitor, write the voltage rating of that component. And also, if you can write this, it will be great. So the reason for the selection of that component, why you have chosen that component, why do you need that resistor here? Okay, can't you directly give the output of this IC to the LED? Okay, so all these things. So if you can reason that out, that will be great. So why you use this is you want to limit the voltage that comes across the LED here. Okay, basically the output here is going to be in the order of 5 volts and the LED works like at 2 volts if you're going to use a small indicator LED. So you need somebody to take the extra load. Okay, you need somebody to take the voltage and limit the current. So that's why we are going to use a resistor. Okay, so it'll be great if you can write this, but if you can even make like the list of components and the specifications, okay, then I'll say, okay, it's kind of worth attending this talk. Okay, always I feel that the post talk or a post workshop activity is really, really important. Okay, because we listen to so many talks, but then we forget it. Okay, but if you can put it to practice during that time, okay, maybe take a week or like 10 days or something and come up with something, so then you're going to remember it for like a long amount of time. Okay, so do you think that you guys are going to do this activity? Are you guys interested to do this activity?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes. Can you say no here? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I hope that you guys actually do it. Okay. If you have any trouble, you can always write an email to me so we can talk. And maybe if you require some Zoom sessions or like some kind of meetings, we can have that too. Okay. Try to learn from this. Okay. The main idea is you need to know the specifications of the component. So when you are going to go to your lab, okay, maybe you have an analog electronics lab or digital electronics lab or whatever the lab in electronics. So you need to know why you have chosen that component. You have the design, right? So you need to know, okay, why I chose this resistor. What is its wattage rating? What is the current that flows through the resistor? What is the voltage that comes across the resistor? Okay. What is the capacitor value that I'm going to use? Why I have used this particular value? Okay. So if you can get a hold of all these things, then you can actually go about designing a lot of circuits and you know what exactly is happening over there. Okay, you can give a margin, you can have it more reliable, so you know that, okay, even if the voltage increases by a certain value, I have given a margin for my resistor wattage so that nothing is going to happen to my resistor even if there is a small increase in the voltage, maybe a 10 or 20% increase. Okay, so that's what it is about. I hope you take this positively and work on this activity. So that's going to make it really like a worth thing for me too. I'll be happy if you can come back to me with that. Okay, now let's say that you have built this circuit. Okay, and you are getting stuck. Like this is what basically happens when you go on to implement your first circuit. Okay, you just go to the schematic and then you look at the data sheet or maybe not look into it and then start rigging it up. Okay, and then you find that, okay, it doesn't work. Okay, so now what do you do when you know that it doesn't work? So you need to look at it in more detail. Okay, so what's exactly happening? So in this, you divide the circuit into parts. Okay, like what we had done here. Okay, what we had done here. So we have these parts, right? So these are individual parts with which we started. Okay, isolate them. Okay, look at only the switch interface circuit. Maybe you have a resistor and a switch and see if that works. See if you get the required voltages, see if you get the required currents. So that makes sure that this circuit is working. Okay, look at only the delay circuit. Maybe you have a 555 timer or maybe you have some other suggestions for it. Okay, some better circuits. So you can work on that and then see, okay, I'm getting this particular voltage, this particular current. I can test this IC. Maybe sometimes you have a IC tester, like in your digital electronics laboratory, when you go, you're going to have a IC tester where you can check some ICs. Okay, you can even use a IC checker. Okay, just to test if it is fine, and look at each individual parts and then you will try to figure out where the problem is. So that's what I'm talking about here. Okay, so check the input and output of each part or each block that you have. Okay, so that will actually give you a feel for what is going wrong. For example, if let's say my first part is fine, okay, I give an AC input and it gets rectified and it regulates. Okay, it gives me a DC value or a DC voltage of like 5 volts here. Okay, that means this part of the circuit is fine. Okay, this part of the circuit is fine. Now what I need to do next is I need to look at this. Maybe my output is not working, so I look at the next part, that is I look at the delay circuit in detail. Okay, so I look at this circuit and I'll see, okay, fine, if I give a voltage here, what happens if at this point what I should get, at this point what I should get. Okay, so here you have a R and a C, so whether the capacitor is charging. Okay, so what is the value that it needs to reach? If you look at the data sheet and if you look at the specifications and the design, you'll know what exactly the value of voltage should be here or how the waveform looks like. So from that you can predict. And then if you don't get that, that means, okay, there is some problem with this part of the circuit. So part by part you tackle it and then find out where exactly the problem lies. Okay, so this will actually make you to identify the problems at hand. Okay, and once you identify the problems, then you can go on to solve them. For example, let's say that in this particular part, Okay, maybe the capacitor is not charging. Okay, so what are the reasons? What could be the reasons? Okay, one is maybe this particular connection that you have not made it properly. Okay, so then you'll have to do a connection check. You'll have to do something known as a continuity check. If you have seen a digital multimeter, I think in physics laboratory or somewhere you might have seen earlier. Okay, so if you have a digital multimeter, you can always check for the connection. You can see if the capacitor is connected to this IC pin or not. Okay, so if it is connected and then if the capacitor is not charging, okay, if everything is fine and the capacitor is not charging, then maybe the capacitor is faulty. Okay, replace the capacitor. Okay, maybe sometimes the resistor is not fine, so you take the resistor out and check it in the multimeter, see the value of the resistor. If it does not show up that value, then that means the resistor is not fine. Okay, so part by part you look at everything, every possible thing that you can think about. Maybe the connections. Okay, maybe the IC does not get the power supply properly. Okay, maybe the resistors are faulty, maybe the capacitors are faulty, maybe the IC itself is faulty. Okay, maybe the LED is faulty, maybe everything is fine but the LED is not glowing. That doesn't mean all my circuit is wrong, right? Maybe the LED is faulty, or maybe the resistor that is connecting to the LED is faulty. Okay, this has happened to me once. Like, you might have seen a 7-segment display. Okay, so one of the LEDs in that wasn't working. Okay, I didn't know at that point what was happening, but I looked at that resistor. That particular resistor was actually open, so it wasn't fine. Like, it was showing a very huge resistor, okay, which was supposed to be like say 330, and it's showing like an open circuit. Okay, so basically that resistor was spoiled. So when I changed that resistor, then the 7-segment display started to work properly, as in all the LEDs were on. Okay, so you can think about it in those terms. Okay, so this is about how you go to debug your circuits, look at the problems, identify them and solve them. Okay, I hope it is clear. I hope you get some ideas. I know that you haven't worked much with the circuits, but when you go on to implement it, I hope you have some confidence and you know what exactly you need to look at. Like, for example, if you're going to your lab and you have a circuit, you're going to implement that, you need to know how exactly to debug it. What are the things that can go wrong? Okay, maybe I connect this device to a particular component. Okay, I need to first check the output of that device, whether it is fine. Okay, I need to check whether this device itself is fine. I need to check the connections. I need to check the components. Okay, so all of these will actually help you to get a reliable output. So this actually solves that problem. Like, I don't know if you have seen the writing about the talk. So I put some of these in that. Okay. Yeah, I hope you get a feel for it. So let's go to the next part. Okay, now let's go into the actual data sheet of 2 components, okay, which were used there earlier. Okay, so you could see this, right? There's a diode that was used. So let us look at one particular data sheet of a diode. Okay, yeah, so you can see this. So this is your diode, and then they'll give you some specifications about the diode. Sometimes it may not be like very relevant to us. Okay, relevant to us in the sense it depends on what level of design that you're doing. If you're doing in the lab, it may not be very relevant to you. Okay, but if you're doing a circuit and if you're like selling a product, then you'll have to maybe have a lead-free kind of a package. So it might be relevant to them. So it depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at the component that is to or your circuit to be used in, let's say, a military kind of a condition where the temperatures are going to be very different from your lab. Okay, you need to think about it. So your component should be adjusting to that particular climate. Okay, so all those things. But when you go for a lab, you don't need to worry too much about it. Okay, so this is how your diode is going to look like. Okay, so you can see some of these specifications. Okay, so right now you may not be knowing exactly what these specifications mean. I'll give you an idea about what it is. Okay, but when you actually implement your circuits and when you go through it, you'll get a better sense of what is going on. Okay, so here you have something known as the peak repetitive reverse voltage. Okay, so like I mentioned to you earlier, whenever you have a rectifier, you have a diode that is being placed there, right? So what happens usually is in one of the cycles the diode will be on and the other cycle the diode will be off. Okay, so in the cycle that the diode is off, what usually happens is all the voltage that you apply, okay, it's going to come across it. So it's going to block that voltage. In one cycle it's going to pass that voltage, another cycle it's going to block that voltage. Okay, so whenever it is going to block that voltage, okay, your diode should be capable of dropping that particular amount of voltage. Okay, for example, if I look at, let's say, a 1N4001 diode, okay, so here they say that it is 50 volts. Okay, the specification is like 50 volts. Okay, so now if you have a voltage that is coming across your diode, let's say 75, okay, then you cannot use this diode. Then you'll have to go for 4002 or 4003. Okay, so you should look at that specification. You should look at what is the maximum voltage that comes across the diode when it is blocking the voltage. Okay, and then come back to your data sheet and look at the options that you have. Okay, so I can go for either, if I have a 75 volt coming across it, okay, I can go for this, anything after like 1N4001. Okay, now comes the second question. Like I told you, in terms of a resistor, right, you can go for a 10 watt, 20 watt or 30 watt. You can go for anything. Okay, but there might be a problem with the price. If you go for a 30 watt resistor, it might be very much costlier. Okay, but in this case, if your 1N4007 is like almost in the same order as 1N4002, then you can definitely go for 1N4007 itself. Okay, maybe both of them cost the same, or maybe it's just half a buck difference or something like that. Okay, in that case, you can actually go for a 1N4007 itself. Okay, but if you say, okay, if I go for 4002 and it is costing you like say half of this one, then I'm definitely going to go for 1N4002 itself, because I've already kept a margin there. My voltage is 75 in the circuit. I have kept a margin of like 25 extra. Okay, if something happens in the circuit, then still my diode is going to work. Okay, so this you are going to look into the data sheet. Okay, so let's say that this particular component cannot do it, then you look into another data sheet and see which component can handle the voltage that you give in the circuit. Okay, so that's what it's all going to be about. Okay, so many specifications will be available here. Okay, I'll not go into too much of it because it might confuse you that you haven't seen a data sheet, maybe many of you. Okay, so but I'm just trying to expose you to these things so that when you actually come into your second year, you will actually be more confident and you'll be going into these details for designing the circuit, and you'll actually enjoy doing those circuits then, because you know you have a hold of it, you know everything what is happening there, you know if something goes wrong what you need to look at. Okay, so that's what this talk should prepare you to. Yeah, so you can look at one more important specification, which is the current. Okay, what is the current that can flow through the diode, right? So you can look at this. This is like 1 ampere that is given here. So you should make sure that nothing above 1 ampere flows in your circuit, or rather I would say nothing more than say 0.7 ampere flows in your circuit, or 0.8 ampere. Always give some kind of a margin so that if there is some problem, if there is a slight increase in the voltage or something, even then your diode will be able to handle it. Don't keep it like at that critical point where, okay, if it is exact this much 1 ampere itself, if it goes 1.1, then it may be a problem. The diode will get heated, that's all. Okay, for the longer amount of time that you keep, then there's more chance that the diode gets spoiled. Okay, now there is one more interesting specification. Okay, so like most of these components, on an average value, they can pass like, for example, 1 ampere. Okay, so you pass 1 ampere continuously through it, it's going to survive. Okay, or you pass 0.5 ampere continuously through it, it's going to survive. But there will be some another specification, one more specification, where you can give a high amount of current for a very short interval of time. Okay, for example, you give like say 20 amperes, but just for 1 nanosecond or like 1 microsecond. Okay, it's not intentional that you're doing it, but maybe in your design at some point there is a sudden spike that comes in your input voltage. Because of that spike, that is going to carry on, right? So if there is a spike in the input voltage, that is the AC mains, you're going to have that effect on the transformer, and that effect of the transformer is going to come on your regulator. Okay, and the regulator will come to the next circuit. Okay, so it's going to carry on in your circuit, and wherever you have the component which suddenly has to take maybe say like 10 amps or something, and if it cannot take that for that amount of time, then it's going to be spoiled. Okay, so this is that other rating that I'm talking about. So the peak surge current. So even if there is a sudden increase, okay, nothing is going to happen. And there you need to look at other data sheets too. Here I think they have not mentioned exactly for how much time you can pass this 30 amperes, but in many other data sheets they might even mention that. Okay, you pass it for say 1 microsecond, then you can give like 30 amperes, something like that. Okay, so go into those data sheets which can give you more and more details. That will help you to learn better about the circuits as well, and you'll know exactly what is happening. Okay, I hope you get some ideas. Okay, I'll not go through every specification. Okay, not that I know everything about it, even I do not know about each and every specification here. Okay, because they're going to talk a lot about it. They're going to talk about thermal aspects. They're going to talk about what is the exact current, maybe at this current this happens, that current that happens, something like that. Okay, but you should know like what you need in your circuit. Okay, like when I'm going to design a rectifier, I know that it is designed to pass a certain amount of current, so I need to know what is the current specification. I need to know how much it can block. Okay, all those things you need to know. And if you have any repetitive surge coming in, or if you have a non-repetitive surge, sorry, so then you need to know what is the maximum current, some of those specifications. If you're going to pass a very high current, then you'll need a heat dissipation. At that time you'll need to know all these kind of specifications too. For example, when you're going to put a heat sink, then you'll need to know these specifications as well. You need to know the thermal resistance. Like you design your electronic circuit, right? Let's say you have a resistor, you have a capacitor. Even for the thermal, you have a thermal resistance. Okay, so that thermal resistance will also be mentioned. So if you know the thermal resistance of this from the junction to the ambient, then you can go about designing your thermal aspect circuit as well. Basically the heat dissipation, or like using the heat sink. Okay, and then you need to know one more aspect, like whenever the diode is on, or it is going to pass your signal to the output, it's going to drop a certain amount of voltage. So what is that voltage? So you need to know what that voltage is. So that specification will also be given here. Again, they'll give you that with a particular amount of current. Okay, let's say that, okay, at 1 ampere at this particular temperature, this is the amount of current, this is the amount of forward voltage. We call that as the forward voltage drop. So if I give an AC to a diode, and if it passes that, then there will be a voltage drop that comes across a diode. That is the forward voltage. Okay, so now if I know this particular value, then it helps me to design my circuits. For example, when I started off with a resistor and an LED, I told you that, okay, the LED voltage is like 2 volts and 10 milliampere. Now from where do I get that 2 volt? Okay, so that is again got from the specifications of that particular LED. Okay, so from the specification, I know that the forward drop for the LED is like 2 volts for a current of like 10 milliamperes. So I know, okay, this is the value that I need to insert, and then I can calculate my R value. So that helps me in the design. Okay, and it also tells me what is the kind of power dissipation, what is the kind of current that flows, because if I have the characteristic for the LED, which we usually call as the VI characteristic, so that will give me a feel for what exactly is the current and the voltage. Okay, the current flowing through the LED and the voltage that drops across the LED. Okay, yeah, so these are some of the specifications. And whenever it is blocking, so there is something known as the reverse current. Okay, like I told you, like it's going to block the voltage, right? So whenever it blocks the voltage, there is a small current that flows through the diode, which we usually don't intend to. Ideally it has to be 0, but practically it's going to be some value. Okay, so that value will also be mentioned. Okay, so this may not be very critical for you in your designs, maybe in your labs, but let us say that you are going to have a handheld device. Okay, and in the idle state, I do not want a lot of current to be drawn from my battery, because I want my battery to last for as long as possible, right? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose those components, or I'm going to have the design which has the least power dissipation. Okay, in that case I can have my battery which can last longer. Okay, so in some applications, some of the things will become more and more relevant. So you need to look at what is that you want. Okay, if you're just doing it for a hobby sake, this doesn't matter for you. Okay, whether there is a 10 microampere reverse current, or whether there is a 50 microampere, it doesn't really matter. You're just looking at, okay, fine, I have a AC, it has been converted into DC, I have a power supply that I've built on my own, I have a LED for an indication. That's about it. Okay, but if you are going to design it maybe for a product, then you'll have to think, okay, this is my budget. Okay, I'm going to look at this particular thing. Okay, this is the money that I have. I need to allocate it properly. I cannot simply like over design components and like say waste money on that, and also on the space. Okay, so you'll have to choose a component which fits the particular space. You cannot like say buy a through hole component and put it on the motherboard, then it's going to become really big. Okay, so you'll have to look at those aspects. So it depends on which stage of design or what is your application. So basically you need to know what exactly you want, and accordingly you can go about and design it. Okay, and then they'll give you some characteristics here. For example, here you can see like IF, the forward current versus the instantaneous forward voltage. Okay, like I told you initially that, okay, I showed you this rating that is going to be like 1 ampere. Okay, and at a IF of 1 ampere, it's going to be like this voltage, maybe 1 volts. So they're going to tell you at different temperatures what happens. Okay, at 25 degrees Celsius, this is how it is going to look like. At 100 degrees Celsius, this is how it is going to look like. Okay, so this will give you a feel for, okay, if I'm going to use it, like I mentioned to you earlier, if I'm going to use it at some other condition, maybe in a military condition or some other kind of a place where I know my temperature is going to be always above 50 degrees Celsius. Okay, then I cannot design it in this way, right? I cannot go for this design, which might actually create problems in my circuit. Okay, some things might burn out. Okay, or I might under design, over design some things. Okay, so in that case, I need to look at what I want. Okay, like this is at 100 degrees Celsius. So look at that, and then accordingly reset your values of the forward voltage, current, and all that, and design your circuit, design the resistors. So it depends on what you're looking at. Okay, I hope I'm making some sense. Okay, and then they'll give you how the component, like the dimensions of the component. So whenever you're going to design the PCB, you'll need to know what is the dimension of the component. Okay, so that will actually help you in finally putting the component on the board. Okay, maybe in the product stage, or maybe if you build a PCB on your own, a printed circuit board, in that case you need to know the exact dimensions of the component. Okay, because if you don't design it initially, then later you'll not be able to insert that component. Okay, so you need to know what is the length and all those other specifications. Okay, so I hope you get a feel for, yeah, I think I'm almost exceeding time. I hope you get a feel for the data sheet now, guys. Some ideas?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so let me go back to the presentation. Okay, I'm just going to wind up soon. 2 minutes. Okay, so this is another data sheet. I was mentioning to you that there is a voltage regulator, right? Once you rectify it, you need to regulate it to a certain value. So this is that particular data sheet. So again, you need to know what exactly that you want. For example, when I go for a regulator, first I need to know the pin configuration. Okay, maybe if I go for an IC, I need to know the pin configuration, how the pins are connected, so that I can realize this circuit. Okay, so if you look at this, pin number 1 is the input, pin number 2 is the ground, and pin number 3 is the output when you face the IC towards you and whatever is written there. Okay, so exactly you have to keep it in this manner, and then see 1, 2, 3, and this is how it is going to look like. So input, ground, and the output, so you can connect it accordingly in your circuit. Okay, and the specifications will be mentioned here. For example, this is a 78XX series positive voltage regulator. What it means is, if it is 0.5, then it is a 5 volt regulator, so LM7805. If it is LM7812, then it is a 12 volt regulator. If it is LM7824, it is a 24 volt regulator. Okay, so that's what it means. Basically, it will make your voltage come down to 5 volts. So if you give a 10 volts, then it's going to maintain 5 volts if it is a LM7805. Okay, so it will mention all possible voltages that you can do. For example, 5, 6, 8, 9, whatever it is. You cannot vary the voltage here. This is not a variable kind of voltage regulator. There will be some other class of regulators where you can even vary the voltage. Maybe you can vary from 3 volts to 30 volts, or 3 volts to 20 volts, something like that. Okay, but these are like fixed. Okay, so fixed for a particular value, for example 5, 15, 18, whatever it is. Okay, and then the description of the pins and also the IC is going to be given. Okay, so what are we going to look at here? So the main thing that we need to look at is what is the voltage that I need to give to the IC. Okay, this is the output voltage 5 to 18. So I should not give anything above 35, because if I give anything about 35, then the IC is going to get spoiled. So these are the absolute maximum ratings that you can give to the IC. Okay, so as an input voltage, if I want, let's say 5, I cannot give more than 35. I should make sure that I'm well beyond the 35. Okay, below the 35 value. Okay, so maybe I give like 20 volts, then it is fine. Okay, so but for output of 24 volts, you can go up to 40 volts. Okay, so that's what they mentioned. For up to 5 to 18, okay, any of them from 5 to 18, you can go for 35. But if it is 24 volt, you need to you can have a little extra voltage going above 35. That's what they say. Okay, and then other specifications they have given you, thermal specifications. Then there is one more thing that we need to look at. Okay, so if you look at the output voltage, what is going to be the range of the voltage? So it's going to be from 4.8 to 5.2. You expect it to be exactly 5, but it may not be that. Okay, it may be from 4.8 to 5.2. So you should see how that impacts your circuit, whether a small decrease in the voltage is like very critical for your circuit, or 4.8, 4.9 is fine for you. Okay, depending on that, you need to choose this particular IC. Okay, and then again the specifications, the power rating, all those things will be mentioned. And then there is one more specifications which you may not appreciate right now. Okay, but when you come to it, just if you can remember, that will be great. So you have something known as the dropout voltage. So as to get a 5 volts, I need to give at least 2 volts higher than 5 volts. Okay, I cannot give a 3 volt and get a 5 volt. Okay, I need to give at least 7 volts. So that's what it means. So the dropout voltage, the voltage that drops inside the IC. So at least 2 should be dropped. So it can be more than 2 also. I can give a 10 and get a 5. I can give a